Our brain and what it can do for us is really no small thing. It can do some incredible things. It's a 100 billion neurobit processor, but most people never slow it down enough to figure out what it's doing. And like Bruce Lipton, who's one of our instructors at Quantum University, where I head up the brain-based wellness program, he says that 95% of our life is controlled by our subconscious. But most people are trying to change their subconscious to their conscious mind, which takes a long time. So what we're talking about is speeding up, accelerating the change. To give you an example, we did a study in Australia where we took people who were doing music therapy, which we know it really works well. In fact, in science, they call it the Mozart effect, where your brain actually balances and works better because you're using this Baroque classical kind of music, or new agey music that they have now without drums, and your brain actually synchronizes into the alpha state. Well, you learn better. So we know that works. So what we did is we said, what if we took people that just did that music and then we encoded that same music with our algorithm? And the algorithm uses binaural beats, isochronic tones, and some different frequencies like Nogier or Solfeggio frequencies. We all hear about the negative frequencies like 5G, 3G, and all these. Those are negative frequencies. There's also healing frequencies that Rife and Dr. Nogier they had figured those out, and they actually documented those. So we're using those frequencies because we know the body responds. And we use brainwave entrainment because in physics, there's something called entrainment. To give you an example, tuning forks are an entrainment. So if I took two tuning forks, I knocked one on the table, it started resonating. The tuning fork that's within sound of that will start resonating. Well, believe it or not, that happens with everything in the physical universe. When you, Dan, walk into a room, your resonant frequency is changing the resonance of the room. We all know people when they walk in the room, it becomes a little brighter. We also know people when they walk in the room, it becomes a little darker. So yeah. People have this. We have this frequency. Well, nature does that too. So in brain tapping, what we're doing is we're going to take them through. We're going to use light. So let me kind of correlate this back to the ancient times. There's a meditation called a Jyoti meditation, which is you look at a candle, and while you're looking at that candle, you breathe just enough to get the candle to flicker. Well, that candle's flickering at 10 hertz frequency. That happens to be alpha. That also happens to be when you're in the 10 hertz frequency, you get what we call a gamma burst, which we now know is really important for clearing out amyloid plaque. And you get a delta burst, which we know is also really important for detoxing the brain. You get that when you cross the 10 hertz frequency barrier. Also, again, when you cross the 7.8 hertz frequency barrier. Now, those two frequencies are really important in our brain. Mainly, and I should kind of step back a little bit, if Dan, you and I were on my spaceship traveling toward Earth, and we looked at Earth on our machines that could measure the frequency response of the Earth has a frequency response between 0.01 and 100. Well, our brain does the same thing. Our brain has a frequency response of 0.01 to 100. So most of us don't get up into that 100 range, but they've actually had some monks up to 300 hertz frequency. So they're way up there. They're the ones that they put ice cold blankets on them and they heat them up and they start steaming because our body is a generator or a transducer of energy. So when somebody's brain tapping, what they're doing, like the candle, when they're mimicking that candle, but we don't have a candle there, what we've done is we've taken the same frequencies, we put them into LEDs. And the LEDs, the lights on our LEDs have about the same millijoules in our eyes as a candle would. So they can't hurt you. Some of our autistic children that use it can keep their eyes open. It doesn't even matter. It won't harm you. We also have lights in the ears. And the reason is that every cell of our body has what's called chromophores. What a chromophore is, think of it like a solar panel. Every cell of your body absorbs light energy and sound energy and converts it to ATP. If it does it effectively, then we have a lot of energy. And all you have to do is think about the last time you went to a party or a concert. You really didn't want to be there, but then they started playing songs that you knew when you were a child, and your foot started to tap, and you started getting the energy, and pretty soon you're dancing. That's because your body is always converting its environment to energy, or it's taking away its energy, right? There's some things like 5G that cost us energy because our body's trying to keep its balance. And so if we're fed positive energy, like they say in China and Japan, when you walk through the forest, they call it forest bathing. What we're going to do with BrainTap is we're going to put you into the same physiological state as if you're sitting near the ocean for a while. That's 10 hertz frequency. The ocean has a resonant frequency of 10 hertz. So when you're around a body of water, you probably heard, Dan, somebody say, I love the ocean. I love sitting by the waves. Well, there's a reason for that. When we're sitting by the waves and our brain is in tuning or in training to the ocean, what happens is it goes to alpha. Alpha tells the gut to produce acetylcholine. So now you have this feel-good neurotransmitter raging through your body, the same as you would have if you were in love with somebody. But now your brain says, it must be the ocean doing that. In reality, it was you doing that in response to the ocean. So our brain created the neurotransmitters, or our gut created the neurotransmitters mostly. 8% is made in the brain. The other 92% are made in the gut. When we got to that 7.8 hertz frequency that I said is the next one, that happens to be the resonant frequency of a mountain. So if they call it the Schumann frequency, 7.8 hertz frequency. So when somebody says, why do gurus meditate in the mountains? Well, in science now, we have what we call isochronic tone generators. You can actually buy online Schumann frequency generators. You can put them in your home. You can put them in your place of work. A lot of spas use them. So when you walk in, you actually have this feeling like you're on vacation or you're in a resort area, because the body responds. Everything that we see, hear, and experience in our world through our senses is not real. It's basically interpreted. And most people don't understand that our brain is interpreting over 80% of our reality all the time. It doesn't have time to process reality in real time. So our brain is always making things up. And the best example I can give the listener is if you go into the kitchen and you know there was a salt shaker there, or your spouse says, hey, the salt shaker's on the counter, will you bring it out? And you're going, it's not there, I'm looking everywhere. And finally they get fed up, they come up from the table, they go to the kitchen, they see it's right there in front of you, and you go, it wasn't there a minute ago. That's because in psychology, they actually call it a stickoma, which is after the Bible quote where you can't see the sin in another with a stick in your eye. But the reality is that we all have blind spots. So when you're doing your BrainTap session, what's happening is you're going through a cycle of sleep. During that cycle of sleep, you're rebuilding your neurotransmitter bank account. In fact, we found that in the morning when you do an AM session, we call these digital coffee, because in the morning we need to wake the brain up. And with 1/3 of the world not sleeping well, the problem isn't just at night. The problem starts first thing in the morning. They're not grounding. You're not getting outside. They're not doing what they need to do. They're not focused and centered. Their brain is still in delta. In fact, with about 30,000 scans we've done over the last 10 years, we found that over 90% of the people we scan are over 60% delta while they're awake. You should only have about 7 to 10% delta while you're awake. All the brain waves are available so when you're doing the BrainTap session, you're going through each of these brain waves. Your body's tuning in each of these frequencies. Think of them like healthy Wi-Fi, because they're telling your body what to do. Beta, where we're talking right now, is your reactionary mind. We need that to have conversations, to interact, to do things. You can slip into alpha, which is kind of that place where you go when you're in love or playing a sport you like, or maybe gardening, doing things you love. And then you have theta, which is the threshold of sleep. Then you have delta. So what we're going to do is we're going to cycle through those. And as you cycle through them, you get a reboot. So in the middle of the day, when somebody does our sessions for 20 minutes, what they find in our research is that we can reclaim over 80% of the energy you had in the morning. So basically, reboot. Now, the reason this is important, Dan, is that every day, every person around the world at 2 o'clock, you have a temperature drop. It's the way our body resets from the light of the sun. It's not just Superman that gets his power from the sun. That sun gives us power too, and it tells our body what to do at different times of the day. Now, what do? If we're in the UK, we go have tea. If we're in America, we go have a coffee or go get a sweet, because our body has shifted, changed it. What our body's designed to do, because these bodies were designed for the Serengeti. They weren't designed for Chicago or North Carolina or upper Canada, wherever you're at. The reality is that these bodies were designed to take naps during the middle of the day, just like all the other animals on the Serengeti. But we don't have time for that. So we can do it's a 20-minute reboot that gives you the same effects as a 4-hour nap. And then we have our sessions in the evening when you're brain tapping. Maybe your brain is dysregulated. As we get better looking and more intelligent with age, certain things happen to our nervous system. It starts to dysregulate, and stress accelerates that problem. So we've all been to parties where somebody's introduced 3 or 4 people to us, and we had every intention of remembering their names, and 20 minutes later we're caught in the corner talking to somebody that we were just introduced to. They remember our name. They go, hey Dan, what's going on? You're going, oh, I don't know their name. And then as soon as the conversation's over, they walk away, and you walk away, and the stress of that moment's gone. Their name pops in your head because that stress stops it. So what we want to do with BrainTap is, number one, rehearse our day-to-day experience. Could you imagine watching your favorite movies or your favorite TV shows and they never rehearsed? Well, people are doing this every day with their life. And then at the end of the day, they go, I can't believe I gained this weight, or I can't believe I'm still smoking. I can't believe, or you don't have to have problems to use BrainTap. We also have some for sports because we work with a lot of professional sports teams and Olympians. But it's, most of the time it's some discomfort. So during BrainTap, you're really focusing this incredible power we all have, this focus of attention, because what we think about, we bring about. But if you're not thinking about it, guess what you're bringing about? What you've always brought about, because it's on unconscious programming. So you're really upgrading. I tell people you can upgrade your own software, or you can let, Windows or Apple system upgrade for you. I mean, I prefer to upgrade my own software.